Hey guys, welcome back to another YouTube video, and in today's video I'm going to show you how you can put together the M6C12 actuator for this humanoid robot. In the last video we put together the 5010 actuator, which was just a smaller version of this actuator, and the process to assemble this one is almost the same. So I am gonna quickly walk you guys through the process. So I'm gonna bring a fresh pair of parts in. Now these are all the 3D printed parts you need to assemble one actuator, and there are multiple actuators like this in the robot. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to put these brass inserts in the 3D printed parts, and they're gonna be in this configuration. So this part is gonna have 8 M3 inserts along the edge in this format, and 4 M2 inserts over here, as you can see. Then you need 6 more brass inserts, M3 ones, for this part, and 6 more for this part. Now if you don't have any specific equipment to put these brass inserts in the 3D printed parts, you can just use a spare soldering iron lying around in your lab. Now we're gonna grab this part and we are gonna put some bearings on this part. So for example, I have a lot of bearings over here, so I'm gonna grab one bearing and we're just gonna put this bearing like this, and we're gonna do this for all 6 of these pillars. Once that is done, I am gonna grab the 3D printed washer and I'm gonna put it on top of this bearing. I'm gonna insert it in there just like this, and we're gonna do the same for the remaining pillars. Okay, once all the washers are installed in there, we need to add one more pair of bearings to each pillar. So I'm gonna insert bearing on top of this washer. Okay, so we're done inserting bearings on these pillars. So there are 12 bearings in total. We need to add one more bearing to this 3D printed part. I'm gonna select a different color and we're gonna insert it in the center like this. So you have to push it down a bit, and this is what this piece should look like. Now I'm gonna put it to a side and I'm gonna grab the next parts, these two parts, and we need to insert these bearings in the center of these parts. So I'm just gonna insert it in there. Once you have bearings in both of these parts, you need to grab this one, this part, and you need to attach these gears on both sides of these parts. So I'm gonna insert it in here like this. Make sure it snaps in and fits nicely in there. I'm gonna attach this to make sure they're sitting in there nicely and they're at an offset. The next step we need to do is we need to keep them at a almost 180-degree offset like this, and we need to insert this onto this unit. And what you need to be careful on this step is you need to keep this side upward. So you need to insert it this way. Inserting it this way would be wrong. So we're gonna keep this side up and we're gonna put it in there, and we're gonna give it a slight offset like this, and we're gonna need this part later on in the assembly. Next up, I want you to grab this unit over here. You can see there are 6 slots over here, and you need to align these slots with these pillars over here. So I'm gonna push it. So this is what it should look like. So now I am gonna pick this unit over here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab bearings. So these are the gearings for the 6C12 actuators, and I'm gonna leave them there for now, and I'm not gonna insert any screws over here on this module because of a very specific reason. The next step is to insert this unit in there, and sometimes depending on the offset between the two gears on this module, it does not go in. As you can see, there's a clash going on over here, and because of that it does not go in. So what I want you to do in that case is simply push it out and remove this upper cover, and you can play around with the offset and try to push it in there nicely. So I'm gonna try pushing it in there, and I'm gonna adjust the offset while doing so. Once you find the kind of right offset, you need to just push them in. As you can see, now it's sitting in there nicely. So once you kind of find that right offset, you can put this lid back on top of these pillars. So I'm gonna just push them from here, and now we're gonna attach a bearing on this side. So I'm gonna put a bearing in there, and I'm gonna push it from the other side, and now it's ready. Make sure it's sitting flush with the bearing and everything's nice and horizontal. Now what we can do is we can insert screws on all of these sides. So we're gonna need M3X30 screws for this. So I'm gonna grab them and I'm gonna push them from one side, and these screws, they are gonna hold on to these brass inserts on the other end. Now we're gonna pick up one more bearing, and I am gonna insert it on the opposite end like this. So we have a bearing on both sides now, and then we're gonna grab these parts, and I'm gonna attach one of them to the upper side and the other one to the bottom side over here. So they should also snap in nicely, and there we have it. We have one part of the actuator ready. Now I'm gonna put it to a side. Then you can unbox the M6C12 motor. I'm gonna open up the box real quick, and what we need from this box is this motor, and we will have some packet with some screws in there as well. We need all these parts. I'm gonna put this box to a side, and I'm gonna tell you what parts we need right now at this stage. So from this packet we only need the screws right now, and then we would need the heat shrinking tubes for later part of the assembly when we are doing wiring. So we got these screws from inside the packet, and I'm gonna grab the 4 smallest ones, these ones, and we are gonna use these to attach this motor to this 3D printed part. So for that we're gonna align these 4 holes on the 3D printed part with the 4 holes on the motor at the bottom, and we're gonna put them together and lock them in place using screws. Okay, so this motor is attached with this 3D printed part now. Now we are good to move to the next step, which is attaching this on top of this motor. So we are gonna align these holes as well. We're gonna use 4 screws, which are these longer screws, and we are gonna lock this unit in place. Okay, so this part is also attached. Now it can rotate with the motor. And what we're gonna do next is we are gonna attach this unit together with this one, but we need a hex stand in between them. Now we're gonna be using this hex stand to put these two together, and if you have watched the 5010 actuator video, you know this hex stand, it comes in all different sizes, external size to be precise, and depending upon which manufacturer you're getting it from or where you are based in the world, you might get the wrong size. Like in my case, the hex stand I have ordered, it's not able to grab tightly onto this part. It's rotating freely in there. Now to fix this issue, if you have seen the last video, I used some hot glue, which is not recommended. Even if you're in a real hurry, or if your design is permanent, you don't want to do that because you might need to open these actuators later on. So another method to fix this would be to use some masking tape, and we have applied this masking tape on this hex stand to kind of extend its diameter, and now it sits perfectly in there. And as you can see, if I turn this, it won't rotate freely in there. So once you have the hex stand sitting in there, you need to align this part over here with its seat on the opposite end. So we are gonna kind of align this, and we are gonna put it together nicely like this. And once you have done that, we move on to the last part, which is inserting screws. So we are gonna be using M3X60 screws to fasten this actuator, and what you need to do is you need to align these holes with the brass inserts on the bottom over here, and there are a bunch of channels in between as well that you need to align. So you can rotate this disc. So just like in the 5010 actuator, you need to align all of these channels together in order to fasten them. So you need to make sure all these holes are aligned. So if I pass an L key through them, it should come out of the other end like this, and this needs to go in these holes down to the bottom to this nut. So once you've aligned everything, you need to grab M3X60 screws, and you need to use 8 of these across the ring to fasten everything together. So once you've fastened everything together, once you've inserted these 8 M3X60 screws over here, everything, this is what it should look like. Now I'm gonna be making a separate video on attaching this encoder and this motor controller. That's not a part of this video. Now if you rotate this motor, you should be able to see some motion on top over here. There's a lot of reduction, so the motion is really slow. So that's it for this video. I'm gonna be explaining how to solder these connections for the encoder and the motor controller in the next one. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.